the 5th of February 2018. At 3 p.m. local time, the Dow Jones plummets as though the stock exchange has been hit by lightning. It loses more than 1,500 points in a matter of minutes. Never before in the history of the index have American stocks lost so much in a single day. Approximately $2,000 billion vanish in a puff of smoke. And New York is not alone. The collapse spreads like wildfire to Frankfurt, Sydney, Tokyo. Panic erupts. Nobody knows what has caused this disaster. There is no discernible real-world economy reason. There are no new economic predictions, no unemployment statistics. The only explanation that is offered sounds strange. Apparently, the trading computers were too fast. How is it possible that a fringe development of automated stock trading, the astronomical acceleration of computer systems, could almost cause a worldwide financial crisis? In Berlin, Gerhard Schick campaigns for more transparency in the financial sector.
Denn nach meiner Ansicht ist der Hochfrequenzhandel für die Realwirtschaft schädlich. Er ist nicht nur nicht nützlich, sondern sogar schädlich, weil eben an der Stelle, wo es im Millisekundentakt gehandelt wird, da sind die ganzen realwirtschaftlichen Akteure draußen und sie werden wahrscheinlich diejenigen sein, die die Rendite dadurch zahlen, dass sie schlechtere Preise kriegen.
Essentially, high-frequency trading significantly reduces the time that a stock is held before being sold. Sometimes it's just milliseconds or even microseconds. High-frequency trading is the opposite of long-term investment, which is what stock markets were actually designed for. Access to stocks also became a lot faster. The quality of the investment was no longer the deciding motivation for buying or selling. All that mattered was who could react the fastest. High-frequency trading is performed exclusively by computers, not people. These computer systems are completely autonomous. Essentially, they are warring bots. High-frequency traders place their computers as close as possible to stock exchange computer systems, a process known as co-location. Proximity and high-speed connections are a deciding factor. For example, a pension fund wants to buy 600,000 shares at a price of $9.50. Their order goes out to various stock exchanges. When the order arrives at the first stock exchange, a high-frequency trading system detects it and immediately places its own orders for the same shares with all the other exchanges, faster than the pension fund can. Thanks to its high-speed systems, the high-frequency trader is able to buy up all the shares at a price of $9.50, then sell them to the pension fund for $9.51. The high-frequency trader has earned $6,000 within a few milliseconds and with no attached risk. High-frequency traders do not have to be active in the markets permanently. Their advantage is most effective when crises, disasters, or political decisions cause strong price fluctuations. Essentially, high-frequency traders benefit from crises and are constantly waiting for the next one to occur. In the beginning, the intention was to use greater predictability and faster infrastructure to increase the stability of financial markets. In fact, the opposite has occurred. Automation has made them more vulnerable. After all, there is no electronic system that cannot be hacked.
I had a bot, a trading engine, was running in Frankfurt remotely. But it was being controlled from London. What happened in this particular case is that an internet-related outage caused us to lose control over the engine that was in Frankfurt. And I remember for a couple hours trying to validate that the engine itself was demobilized. It turned out my engine was actually live. I had actually designed a feature that said if you break connection with the mothership, stop trading. But that feature had a parameter, and it was off. I had this engine that was basically trading. It could have lost, it could have lost $30 million, right? It lost a few $100,000. But it was a terrifying experience.
Chaim Bodek is a trader and commerce software developer in Stamford, Connecticut. He played an important role in the development of automated stock trading. His idea of using computer algorithms to process information as efficiently as possible is one of the foundations of modern stock trading. A second prerequisite for success is a high-speed data connection. The French businessman Stéphane Tic knows all about fast data transfer. His companies, McKay Brothers and Quincy Data, are based in Paris and California and operate the fastest data connection between New York and Chicago, the homes of America's most important stock exchanges. Stéphane Tic and Chaim Bodek are players in a global battle for the best computer software and the fastest data networks. This contest began a long time ago, in the casinos of Las Vegas. At the end of the 1960s, a new generation of scientists recognizes that it is possible to use computers to increase its luck at the tables. Pioneers like Edward Thorpe and Blair Hull develop algorithms that allow them to count cards when playing blackjack and to make predictions. Doyne Farmer takes a different approach. In the 1970s, the physicist makes roulette his field of expertise. Farmer and his team begin to play. They soon discover that it's possible to predict the course of the ball if one knows its current position and speed.
And then we embarked on building a computer that would allow us to do this. Now, this was 1976 when we got started. So you have to realize at that point there were no personal computers or anything like that.
In Pennsylvania's Allegheny Mountains, Stéphane Tic's company is working on making the fastest data connection between New York and Chicago even faster.
Nos réseaux sont conceptuellement très simples. Ils démarrent par une fibre. Cette fibre va entre le data center et la première tour. Elle arrive jusqu'à une radio. Au moment de la radio, l'information est encodée dans des signaux radio qui sont envoyés jusqu'à une autre tour. C'est reçu là et c'est répété de manière analogique. C'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a aucun traitement qui est fait. Et donc c'est répété jusqu'à la prochaine tour. Il faut être absolument parfait tout le long de la chaîne pour avoir une chance de garder un signal propre depuis Chicago jusqu'au New Jersey sur 1200 km sans avoir besoin de faire aucun traitement dessus. C'est un petit peu comme lorsqu'il y a une course de Formule 1, on doit s'arrêter au stand et le temps d'arrêt au stand est souvent ce qui décide de la course. Donc nous, notre temps d'arrêt au stand, c'est le passage à travers l'équipement radio sur une tour.
An algorithm is a rule for answering questions.
Algorithms provide the foundation for farmers' bets at the casino. A computer is required to process algorithms quickly. At the time, however, these are large, expensive, and slow. This begins to change in the mid-1970s.
The 6502 microprocessor had just come out. Same microprocessor that the guys from Apple used to build the Apple computer.
Doyne Farmer's team designs a computer around the same processor.
The initial version of it was under the armpit. There was a pack of AA batteries under the other armpit, switches in the shoes, wires running up and down, an antenna around the shoulders. The antenna would transmit the signal to a second person who would then place the bets. From the moment the croupier spins the ball until the bets get closed, there's typically about 10 seconds that pass, 10 to 15 seconds. So we had to be able to take the data for the rotor and the ball and get the prediction 4 to 6 seconds ahead of when the bets got closed so that the bettor had enough time to reach over and place the bets. So we had to have the prediction coming pretty fast. The computer we had ran very slow by modern standards, but because it was, carefully coded machine code, we were able to get the answer out in a matter of a fraction of a second.
Doyne Farmer's computer became the stuff of legends. It wasn't just any computer. It was the first computer built into clothing. While Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were creating the original desktop computer, Doyne Farmer was building one in a shoe. Farmer himself becomes an icon for people working in the field of computer-based predictions. Farmer and his team eventually decide that their winnings at the roulette wheel do not justify the risks they are taking. They return to more serious scientific fields. Farmer finds himself at Los Alamos, where he investigates methods of predicting the weather, among other things. Then the world changes, or at least the world of money.
Now let's go to the financial desk in New York and to Bill Hurley to find out what's happening on Wall Street.
Sonny, there's only one word to describe what's happening, and that is panic. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is off almost 200 points. It is down by 191, and been down a fall right now. Volume, 345 million shares.
Incredible day on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average right now down 271.53 points, putting the Dow below the 2,000 mark. The Dow right now at 1975.20.
During the 1987 stock market crash, investors attempt to dump their shares in a panic. Their brokers eventually begin to ignore the frantically ringing telephone. The authorities decide that more trading should be left to computers, as people simply are not reliable enough. The New York Stock Exchange remains America's largest, but Chicago becomes the center of new financial technologies. The Hull Trading Company is one of the pioneers in the field of big data and market predictions. In the early 1990s, the company is considered a measuring stick by many traders. Like Doyne Farmer, Hull Trading Company's founder Blair Hull had originally put his mathematical skills to the test in Las Vegas, where he counted cards at the blackjack tables in the 1970s. He is one of the first to recognize the potential of automated financial trading. In 1985, he founds his own company in Chicago, the center of US derivative trading. Chaim Bodek joins Hull's team in September of 1997. Quantitative analysts are also in high demand in Europe. The best emerge from the universities in Paris. Mathematicians are welcome additions to the market, as are physicists like Stefan Teague.
À l'époque, sur Wall Street, toutes les banques voulaient embaucher des physiciens. Et donc j'ai essayé de me dire, je vais faire la même chose en France. Et la BNP, à l'époque, cherchait également à embaucher des physiciens. Et donc j'y suis allé. Une des choses que j'ai apprises et découvertes, c'est que les mathématiques financières vivent avec des espèces d'artifices de calcul qui sont justifiés, hein, mais qui sont quand même des artifices de calcul. Et c'est impossible de décrire la réalité parfaitement. Et il n'y a pas d'équation de la bourse. Il y a uniquement des approximations de la bourse. Mais c'est quand même un monde sur lequel BNP Paribas et plein d'autres banques qui font des dérivés ont bâti une activité qui marche en fait très bien. Donc c'est un monde, c'est un artifice qui est à la fois faux, parce qu'il ne décrit pas la réalité, mais qui est suffisamment bien approché pour pouvoir servir à monter des activités de plusieurs milliards de revenus par an.
While we were doing the roulette project, our friend Rob Shaw came over and said, I just found out about this amazing thing of chaos. So we went up to the lab and we looked at the simulation on the analog computer and we were just amazed because you could see that even though there were deterministic equations, it was making this random looking set of patterns on the screen. And so we got completely fascinated by that. And we created algorithms for identifying patterns in nature that are described by chaotic dynamics.
Doyen Farmer devotes himself to studying patterns that allow predictions to be made. One of his areas of study is meteorology. Farmer and his team in Los Alamos are able to expand the time frame for precise hurricane predictions from 2 days to 5. This gives emergency services valuable time to evacuate people in danger.
Every time I would talk about this, somebody would say, well, have you applied this to the stock market? And so I kind of got tired of saying no. Meanwhile, I heard about the efficient markets hypothesis, which says that stock markets are inherently unpredictable. It was a very popular theory at the time, and I didn't believe that. So Norman and I, once again, left. He left his job at University of Illinois, and I left my job at Los Alamos, and we gathered with some other younger scientists and a business guy and started a company to use computers to predict the stock market. This was in 1991, and we called ourselves Prediction Company.
Donc la Bourse de Paris, le Palais Brongniart, a été construit vers 1829 et les hommes, la corbeille, a été remplacée par des ordinateurs vers la fin des années 80. Ça a été la cotation assistée en continu, le fameux CAC, d'où l'indice CAC 40. Et maintenant, il n'y a plus rien, en tout cas plus rien qui concerne la bourse dans le Palais Brongniart. Tout est parti à Londres, dans la banlieue de Londres, à Basildon.
The Paris Stock Exchange is not the only empty shell. Even Wall Street is little more than a movie set these days. This Interaction Data Center is located in an anonymous building on the outskirts of Vienna, Austria. The company has 13 such co-location centers throughout Europe. More than 100 internet service providers, 5 internet exchanges, and important cloud services have computers stationed here, as does Vienna's stock exchange. The exact location is kept secret, and there is no official confirmation of the presence of stock exchange computers.
Wichtig für das Geschäftsmodell, das Interaction betreibt, ist das Rechenzentrum an einem der Knotenpunkten der internationalen Datenrouten zu platzieren, um diese Community of Interests, wie wir sie nennen, optimal ausnutzen zu können. Das heißt, wir verbinden hier an unserem Standort Unternehmen miteinander, um optimal ihre Geschäfte abwickeln zu können.
Time is of the essence.
Also Geschwindigkeit spielt eine wichtige Rolle. Die Latenzzeit, die sich Kunden erwarten, bewegt sich im Millisekundenbereich. Und das ist für unterschiedliche Geschäftsmodelle von Gaming bis hin zu Finanzdienstleistern ganz wesentlich.
For this reason, the Vienna Stock Exchange's most important server, over which deals are made, isn't located in Vienna at all. It is in Frankfurt. In the race to buy or sell, it's important to be as close as possible to the main server of the main stock exchange. Proximity is time, and time is money. In the 1990s, US trading is divided between the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street, with its traditional trading floor and its traditional companies such as IBM and General Motors, and the electronic stock exchange NASDAQ.
The European markets actually went electronic first, and many of us who were part of that transition from floor to electronic markets, we kind of were groomed in the European markets first, and then we came back to the States. Matter of fact, Eurex is quite interesting to me looking back, because it was the first exchange where I found, basically a cheat to exploit. I got a lot of credit, and I got a big promotion for finding a cheat on the Eurex exchange to get prices faster than we should have. And years later, when I hit the front page of the Wall Street Journal for my whistleblowing against Direct Edge, a former colleague from Hull contacted me by email and said, "Hey, what you turned on Direct Edge is very similar to what we were doing on Eurex." And I had been a whistleblower for a year, and had not really acknowledged that I was guilty of the same type of thing that I had turned in. I just hadn't equated the two. And it made me realize how difficult it is for people to really see what they're doing in our industry.
When we founded Prediction Company, we didn't know anything about financial markets. Our method was to look for patterns in the data, and when we found those patterns, then we would design a trading system that would make bets based on the patterns.
What do you think? Let's go.
We learned some lessons from roulette. One lesson was that you've got to bet big. The stock market also, to make a good model, you don't have to predict very well. If you're right 55% of the time, if you make enough bets, then you can make a pretty good profit. And unlike roulette, where if you start to win, they can just throw you out or threaten to break your kneecaps, the stock market, they don't kick you out for winning. So it took us about 5 years before we really found something that genuinely worked in a consistent way. But once we did that, it worked very well. And so Prediction Company traded subsequently for about 25 years. Though I left in 1999. My goal had originally been to do it for 5 years and make some money and then go back to doing science research. It took me 8 years, so. We ended up selling it to UBS in about 2006 for $100 million.
Speed is not only essential when operating a stock exchange. Investors and traders also have to react quickly. Those who are first to recognize price differences between stock exchanges can use this advantage to make a lot of money. At the turn of the millennium, the large banks realize that they are falling behind their competition. In 1999, Goldman Sachs buys the Hull Trading Company for $500 million.
Hull was supposed to become like the backbone of Goldman, and it really didn't. And it really was a very, very different culture at Goldman than at Hull. And many of the people I related to didn't feel at home.
Dissatisfied with the investment bank's business practices, a number of former Hull Trading Company employees leave Goldman Sachs. In 2003, Bodek joins UBS, which is planning to open a new trading floor in Stamford. He is tasked with creating the infrastructure from the ground up.
I remember the first time I heard about high-frequency traders, I was in the elevator with a person who's very, very senior in the business now, and he was complaining about how they would interfere with, the trading profits of the desk he was running, but that they didn't make that much money. And that was just so interesting, is that this strategy class made a huge amount of volume, but not much money at all. And we were like, why would people do that? Why would you do all that work and make such a small profit?
Many were surprised by the rise of high-frequency trading. The financial journalist Jennifer Neal kept a close eye on developments from the very beginning.
Bien sûr, à l'époque, on était en pleine crise financière. Tout le focus des médias était sur ce qui se passait, sur l'immobilier américain qui s'effondrait, toutes les banques qui tombaient l'une après les autres. Ça, c'était complètement passé sous silence par la presse généraliste. Faut dire, on vivait aussi des temps assez délicats puisque tout le système financier menaçait de s'effondrer, en fait. Mais pendant ces temps-là, en fait, paradoxalement, en 2008, il y a une société qui s'appelle Getco, qui est un trader à haute fréquence, qui a gagné historiquement son meilleur bénéfice cette année-là parce que ces acteurs-là, ils adorent la volatilité sur les marchés et à ce moment-là, on était à un pic de volatilité parce que les gens vendaient, achetaient de manière effrénée tellement ils avaient peur de ce qui se passait sur les marchés financiers.
Il y a une confusion qui est très souvent faite entre le trading automatique et la finance. C'est deux mondes qui sont proches mais qui n'ont rien à voir. Le trading automatique, c'est juste des programmes, des ordinateurs qui facilitent les transactions, qui les rendent moins chères, plus sûres, plus rapides. Donc c'est quelque chose qui est essentiellement bon. Lorsqu'il y a une bourse et que le public peut aller acheter et vendre en bourse, il est assuré que la différence entre le prix d'achat et le prix de vente est petit. Il est assuré que ses coûts de transaction sont faibles et que tout se passe bien.
While the explosion of high-frequency trading in the early 2000s continues, Chaim Bodek is developing new trading strategies for his employer UBS. He calls it size game. His algorithm follows a simple logic. Because large orders are given preferential treatment by the stock markets, the Moneybot dynamically increases its order to remain at the forefront and push out competitors. However, there is a catch. He has to ensure that the artificially inflated order never actually takes place.
If you put huge orders out there of that size and they all trade, you will go pretty much instantaneously belly up. Okay, I won't go into details, but it happened to other firms. It's a game of chicken in a way. We had to write algorithms that said, if you traded 30,000 contracts, you didn't want to trade those 30,000 contracts. So try to dump them immediately on another exchange where some other market maker is still quoting 30,000 contracts. So we created all this algorithm and this kind of war in terms of getting the largest, what we call participation rate. It turned into this horrible game of chicken and hot potato, where you quoted more than you really should in any responsible manner. And then if you actually got hit, which happened, you needed to dump it on other people before they realized that the hot potato was coming. It was as stupid as you can get. It was just stupid. So the algorithm that I designed was powerful enough that everybody else had to match it. And that actually brought down the market system, the market data system of the US options market to the brink of collapse, basically. And what was so cool for me, I just literally just loved this. I could see how many months it took for another firm to realize what I was doing and try to introduce the same algorithm. And it took 3 years for 7 firms to figure it out.
Chaim Bodek's size game turns him into a financial rock star. However, he knows that he can't play the game forever. It is time to strike out on his own.
I walked out with the team and I set up trading machines. It was 2007, and it was designed to be, a Ferrari, but an independent Ferrari. To me, for me, it was really a dream, is to be independent. I didn't realize it was going to turn into an odyssey.
Bodek leaves UBS at a time when the stock markets in the USA and Europe are changing dramatically. Part of this is due to the high-frequency traders. The large investment funds are angered by the fact that the small, flexible, high-speed traders are constantly snapping at their heels. The banks begin to set up internal exchanges which allow trades to take place in secrecy. More than 40 of these so-called dark pools are established as alternatives to the 13 regular stock exchanges in the USA alone. The movement of investors into the dark pools forces the stock markets to cater to the high-frequency traders, and they soon make up the majority of trades. Some estimates put the number as high as 70%. Before long, the banks themselves cannot resist the temptation of the high-frequency money and open up the dark pools to high-frequency trading. Speed is all important.
On s'est approché de la vitesse de la lumière. On est aujourd'hui à environ 10 microsecondes au-dessus de la vitesse de la lumière.
We launched right before the financial crisis. We launched basically into it. We traded through it. We scaled out all of our algorithms and memberships on major exchanges. Pretty much hit what I call full footprint. And we went to 0.5% US market share pretty much overnight. And things were going very well until May 2009, when things mysteriously stopped working. We built a system that would basically measure that the trades that we intended to do were in fact profitable and that were the trades that the machine should be doing. Over the period of 2009, I started seeing changes. The stock trading that we did changed quite a bit over that period of time. And what happened was I kind of bought into what I think of now as a myth, where people say, oh, that exchange is toxic, and without, that's just kind of a blanket term, right? I'm getting screwed on that exchange. That's what being toxic means. So what was happening is I would keep redirecting our trading towards the exchanges that were less toxic, and then there were none. So the last exchange to go toxic was Direct Edge. In May of 2009, I was away from the office and for a week, and I came back, and there was this dramatic change that was so severe that it basically took the business from modestly profitable to flat.
In order to confront the problem, Chaim Bodek immediately buys faster connections and price feeds. He optimizes his codes, but the problems increase. He watches powerlessly as the blood drains out of his company. Facing bankruptcy, Chaim Bodek encounters a drunk Direct Edge salesman at a party.
He just told me, and he outlined 3 major abuses I got interested, and I remember taking out a napkin. I don't know where we found the pen or something, but I wish I had this napkin still. I'm like, what? Do you mean it works like this? And he explained to me these very, very sophisticated abuses. And he said to me that they'd built all this stuff to attract high-frequency traders, but they hadn't done a good enough job. So now they were going to make new high-frequency traders. And I was invited in the club to become a new abuser. It was 20 minutes of work to fix these problems that I had been chasing for half a year. And this guy could have just told me half a year ago. And, if he had told me much earlier, it probably wouldn't have crossed my mind how wrong it was. But I was so angry. It was very clear to me that you either used the cheats or you were a victim. It was designed, there was no middle ground. You could not be innocent.
Once Bodek discovers the reason for his company's failure, he embarks on a last-ditch attempt to save it. However, he is too late. Trading Machines enters bankruptcy during the turbulence of 2010 and 2011. For the first time, Chaim Bodek is forced to confront the realities of high-frequency trading.
Do you think the high-frequency trading industry wants to say, well, we're using undocumented special order types and an obscure exemption in regulation NMS to get to the top of the queue? No, they're going to tell you they're faster than you. And that was, that's the false flag, let's say, or I don't know what the right term is, but the red herring. Speed is a red herring for a lot of tricks that my industry has developed to get ahead of other people.
The activities of the high-frequency traders remain hidden from view for a long time. In 2010, something happens that suddenly lifts the veil. At 2:32 p.m. on the 6th of May 2010, the US financial planning company Waddell & Reed places a huge buying order for forward contracts valued at $4.1 billion, using an automated execution algorithm. It is a huge order and extremely promising for high-frequency traders. The Moneybots immediately begin to buy and sell at lightning speeds and without letting up. Share prices immediately begin to collapse. Approximately 3.5 million shares are affected, and more than 200 companies lose their entire share value in the matter of minutes. Nobody knows what is happening. 13 minutes later, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange is forced to stop trading. So much liquidity has been sucked out of the market that it's in danger of total collapse. After a break in trading of 5 seconds, the market calms down again. The cause of the events of May 2010 is never fully resolved. Experts assume that the collapse began at precisely 2:42 p.m. and 44 seconds, when the Moneybots had bought up the maximum permissible number of contracts and simultaneously had to change their position. A digital stampede which caused the market to implode. The stock exchanges immediately question the veracity of this explanation. Instead, 5 years later, a lone trader in the UK is convicted of having destabilised the stock market from his basement. This scapegoat allows the exchanges, banks, and high-frequency traders to continue playing their game. In 2013, another crash is caused by a fake tweet. Syrian hackers successfully used the Associated Press account to fake a terrorist attack on Barack Obama. Just one fabricated report is enough to cause turbulence in the financial markets. Once again, the severity of the event is soon brushed aside. Part of the reason would appear to be that nobody really knows why the markets are increasingly acting strangely. The largest flash crash to date happens on the 5th of February 2018. Its impact is felt around the globe.
Man weiß es bis heute nicht ganz sicher, aber es gibt einen Verdacht, und zwar hat sich kurz nach diesem Flash Crash 2018 ein Whistleblower zu Wort gemeldet Und der hat den Banken Manipulationen vorgeworfen. Der hat gesagt, da wurde bewusst manipuliert, um diesen Flash-Crash herbeizuführen.
Doyne Farmer's journey from the casinos to Los Alamos and on to Wall Street eventually takes him to Oxford, where he now studies stability in complex systems like the financial markets.
I think part of what happens in flash crashes, though we haven't gotten to the bottom of flash crashes as well as we should, there are algorithms running and they're just reflexively doing something and they go on right on doing it, even though it would be better to stop, because that's what they're programmed to do and they don't have time to think about it any more than that. Running a trading system that literally cares about microseconds, that means you have to write code that's extremely spare. Your signal hits your machine can at most run a few lines of code and then it has to make a trade. You have to do everything super quick, you can't think about it very much. When I say you, I mean the machine can't think about it very much. I do think we have to worry that as markets go faster and faster, we're opening up the possibility for an instability as a result of the collective interaction of the high-frequency traders with other parts of the market. And we're doing that for no useful purpose. It'd be one thing if we were taking these risks because it gave us something that was valuable. It doesn't give us anything valuable. It just makes a few people rich. And they get rich in a crazy way. They get rich by, co-locating servers next to the stock exchange and writing algorithms that trade on the instantaneous glitches of the other orders hitting the markets.
Critics of high-frequency trading have spent years in Brussels trying to achieve EU-wide regulation. The privatization of markets, encouraged by the EU's 2004 MiFID I directive, results in stock exchanges having to look for new clients, as similar regulations did in the USA. As a result, high-frequency trading gains an increasing foothold in Europe's markets. Regulations pertaining to high-frequency trading that were passed by the EU Parliament are overturned at the last possible moment by the finance ministers in the Council of the European Union.
Bei der MiFID ging es um eine Reform der Regulierung der Finanzmärkte. Wenige Jahre vorher, 2004, 2007, dann in Kraft getreten, hat es schon mal eine Regulierung gegeben, die dann zu der Krise beigetragen hat, mehr oder minder stark. Und deshalb hat man sich 2012 entschieden, 2012, 2013, diese Regulierung der Finanzmärkte zu re-regulieren und einer kritischen Revision zu unterziehen. Dabei hat besonders der Hochfrequenzhandel eine Rolle gespielt. Der war, als die erste MiFID gemacht wurde, kaum bekannt.
The EU Parliament agrees on a holding period of 0.5 seconds and a cancellation fee designed to restrict high-speed trading.
Das ist dann aber, ich sag's mal so ganz deutlich, kläglich gescheitert. Die Mitgliedstaaten hatten halt durchgehend das Interesse. Da sind die großen Finanzplätze natürlich London, Luxemburg spielt eine Rolle, Paris spielt eine Rolle, Frankfurt spielt eine Rolle. Also in diesen finanzpolitisch bedeutenden Ländern hat man schon ein Interesse gehabt, die Liberalisierungen, die mit der ersten MiFID gekommen sind, möglichst nicht zurückzunehmen. Und natürlich haben sich die Vertreter des Hochfrequenzhandels gewehrt gegen diese Regulierung. Das ist völlig klar. Und sie haben, das ist meine Beobachtung im Parlament gewesen, einen einfacheren Zugang zu den Regierungen der Mitgliedstaaten, wenn sich dann die Interessen der Lobbyisten des Hochfrequenzhandels mit den Finanzmarktüberlegungen und Planungen der Mitgliedsregierungen, der Mitgliedsländer treffen. Dann kriegt man relativ schnell die Regierungen der Mitgliedsländer auf seine Seite gezogen. Das ist offensichtlich im Hintergrund passiert. Und das hat dann dazu geführt, dass der Rat also gerade diesen Part der Regulierung der MiFID einfach abgeblockt hat.
At national levels, the problems are very similar. In Germany, for example, an effective solution seems a long way off. It is a worrying sign that it's not even possible to say which German companies engage in high-frequency trading and how much money they earn. As far as Gerhard Schick is concerned, high-frequency trading is merely a symptom of a far greater problem.
Die Finanzdienstleistungen sind ja eigentlich ein Unterpunkt von den Dienstleistungen, aber es gibt einen relevanten Unterschied nochmal, dass eben die Sphäre des Geldes eine ist, die indirekter Unterstützung leistet. Diese Dienstleistungsfunktion ist eben inzwischen in der Finanzwirtschaft nur noch ein kleiner Teil der Aktivitäten. Der größere Teil ist eigentlich ein innerfinanzwirtschaftliches Geld mit Geld verdienen, wo dann häufig die Auswirkungen auf die Realwirtschaft eigentlich negativer Natur sind. Ein großer Teil der Finanzwirtschaft hat gar keinen Bezug mehr zur Realwirtschaft. Aber umgekehrt aus der realwirtschaftlichen Perspektive muss man sagen, dass die letzten Wirtschaftskrisen eigentlich alle durch Finanzentwicklungen ausgelöst worden sind. Insofern ist eine stabile Finanzwirtschaft eine Voraussetzung für eine stabile realwirtschaftliche Entwicklung.
In 2012, the same year that the EU starts working on the MiFID II directive, Chaim Bodek becomes a whistleblower in the USA. He is met with powerful opposition, and the bankruptcy of his company affects him deeply.
To me, it's not about, the possessions, right? And the status symbols to me, at first I rejected them, but then I realized at some point that you literally get paid in that you get more opportunity, you get bigger bonuses. If you want a boat, right? They tune your compensation, what they expect your demands are. That's how this business works. It's very, very difficult to play the Wall Street game and be modest. You are not rewarded for modesty. Now, I will say, after a long period in the business, it did start to corrupt me. And the whistleblowing was an amazing experience because I didn't think I had been corrupted by the business. And I will tell you, one of the first times I realized that I was when I had to mow my own lawn. I live in a neighborhood where people don't mow their own lawns. So if you go out and mow your own lawn, it's noticed. And I will say that shedding that was liberating, but it took a lot longer than I thought. It's disturbing how much those symbols of status and wealth become, essential to people feeling self-worth. Most of the retaliation was done through the industry quietly. And, it was a kind of a strange mix in that the people who were least supportive were the victims. It was completely confusing. I thought that what I did was providing information that would balance things and kind of repair the industry. But the victims were basically embarrassed. What investment bank wants to admit has been routing orders that have been abused for like 5 years by exchanges and high-frequency traders? What pension fund wants to admit that? Right? So I didn't get the love from that side of the fence. But what was very strange is I got a lot of attention from the high-frequency traders, especially the high-frequency trading executives, who kept trying to reel me back. I will say that the process made me respect the bad guys way more than the rest of the industry, because they were actually right about the risks. They were right about the regulatory response. They pushed things to a level where they could manage it, and they didn't go beyond it. There was one president of a large high-frequency trading firm that had multiple percent market share, 4% market share, and he told me, he says, even if you tell everybody what we're doing, the buy side is so lazy. They won't read anything, they won't understand anything, they just won't do the work. You could just put it all out in a map and nothing will change. And I said to him, I said, we'll see about that. So a year later, I'm at a conference where I debated him. And after the conference, I said, you were totally right. I put it all out there and it went whoosh, over everyone's head. I was like, there's I think over 500 pages in the Federal Register of changes and documentation on features of exchanges. Its entire purpose was to level the playing field. And I think the only people who really read it were the high-frequency traders.
Le trading haute fréquence est effectivement un symbole du remplacement de l'homme par la machine. Il me semble que c'est un cas où la machine est beaucoup plus honnête que l'homme. Beaucoup plus honnête que l'homme. La machine a des règles qu'elle suit.
So when I got into this business, I thought the whole point was to replace the old boys club, to get rid of it. And what I learned after 20 years is what we ended up doing is that we automated the old boys club. It's alive, it's thriving, it's in the algos.